Welcome, everyone. Greetings. It's Naomi Wolf with one of our absolutely favorite guests and our wonderful sponsor, one of our wonderful sponsors. We're so proud to showcase his work and his product, and that's Dr. Chad Walding. And he's the co-founder and chief culture officer at Native Path. He's a doctor of physical therapy with a passion for helping people eat, move, and live in harmony with their natural state. Since graduating from Hardin-Simmons University in 2007, Dr. Chad has upgraded the quality of life of millions. When he's not helping others, he can be found playing his guitar lakeside in Austin, Texas, taking sunrise and sunset walks with his wife and golden doodle, and working out in his garage gym. So welcome back, Dr. Walding.
Hello, Naomi. So good to be back. Thank you again for having me.
We're always so happy to have you. And I also just want to say, since you and I last spoke, we always have these conversations that start out nominally about physical health or even collagen or, hydration, but expand quickly to kind of the meaning of life, the universe, the larger metaphysical sense of what health and wholeness are. And I'm sure today will be no different. But I did want to thank you before we get into today's topics, because you bit by bit changed my life and my husband's, and my family's, if they let me. Kids are resistant, but my mom, I'm changing her life through you, because literally things like get up and go outside every day and get sunlight, like your directions about sunlight. I've seen recommendations from other people, but what you have to say about just how to live your life every day is so practical. And I will just tell you that that's a huge game changer for me and my husband, especially my husband, who is a combat veteran and so has sleep issues. And your recommendations on sunlight, walking, grounding have made a huge difference for us. So thank you. And we can launch right in then. Is there anything you want to say to that before I go ahead and get to the topic of the day?
Well, I love hearing that. I love hearing that the basic things are making the most difference for you and your husband, and I love teaching that stuff. And that passion for it comes from not seeing it addressed in the conventional model, right? If there's something going on with our health, we typically take something or numb something or suppress something, which can be helpful in certain cases. But I think we really have to ask, like, why is this happening to me? What is causing this symptom, this way I'm feeling, or this issue that I'm having, and go back to the things that our biology is designed for. We have to keep in mind that we're kind of like animals. We're kind of like animals in the wild. There's certain laws of nature that our body best obeys with. At Native Path, we say we operate best when we are aligning our biology with what the human needs are, right? So the ways of eating, the ways of moving, the ways of living, if we obey those laws of nature, our health issues become so much easier to solve. And then we can use the conventional modes as needed, right? That's what they're there for. But the basics, the very fundamentals of health, it's all around the things we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. And you're reminding me about some of the other very deep themes that surface when you and I talk. And again, since I last spoke to you, these have really arisen in my friend circle and even in my own life, which is, can you have a serious health condition and still be healthy, right? In other words, can you, a beloved relative of mine got diagnosed with breast cancer. And I think we may have talked about her because she's such an interesting case study, or I don't mean to talk about someone I love as a case study, but she is surrounded by purely allopathic treatments. And I have another friend with breast cancer, and I know I must have shared this with you because it's on my mind so much, who's surrounded by kind of alternative as well as conventional medicine. And their journeys are so different. But what I take away so deeply is that I shouldn't say, who it is, but like my relative, I'll go as far as that, is thinking of herself as a sick person. And my friend who has this exact same condition is thinking of herself as someone who with a life-changing challenge that, may be eventually very serious, but she's living a healthy life day by day, an empowered life, just totally different. And since I last spoke with you, I had a little version, not nearly as serious myself, And I stopped being able, I had trouble walking. And, I've been going to various, because I've shared, I have a neurological condition, spina bifida occulta. So it manifests in various kind of mechanical issues from time to time. Limping comes and goes, but it's never been very, very serious since I first had it identified and treated with a laminectomy. Not to get too boring, but that's a spinal fusion. So the reason I'm bringing this up is when I saw an allopathic doctor for this, it was like terrifying because it was like, let's cut you open right away. Let's put you in the hospital. Let's replace your hip. It was so grave and butchery, what do you like? It's very difficult to not be able to walk, what you're very inclined to say, okay, I'll do anything to walk again, cut me open, put me in the hospital. Whatever. But I've learned to get lots of second opinions, especially in the non-allopathic world. So I've also seen acupuncturists, and I just saw a fantastic chiropractor in Reykjavik who took x-rays of my spine. And in fact, it's not the hip, right? In fact, I'm going somewhere with this. Forgive me for being a little narcissistic, and we'll get into all the things we need to. But to just set this up, it's actually that something higher up in my spine is realigning my hips improperly. So that puts pressure on the hip joint. So that's what's causing my mechanical issues. So obviously that takes a different approach. But bottom line, the MRI that the allopathic doctor produced showed a fraying of the labrum, right, which is the cartilage, as I understand it, or connective tissue. And that's why I'm giving you this long preamble that holds the femur in place, or that is the socket for the femur, which is the thigh bone. All this to say, I'm doing a bunch of things, including doubling down on my collagen, which I confess, I really feel it when I don't take it every single day, and I should not have missed a day. But in addition to that, and in addition to a bunch of other things, DMSO this morning, which has been fantastic, physical therapy, I want to believe maybe I'll need surgery. Maybe the only way I can walk again is through this gigantic intervention, but I'm walking better, right? And just day by day, depending on what I do, and including my mind state, right? It affects my mobility. So I've given you that long preamble. Sorry to be so self-absorbed, but we want to talk about collagen. And, I know that a labral tear, like labral fraying, is right up your alley because it relates to connective tissue. And I'm sure collagen relates to connective tissue. So will you speak to that before we get into some of the more granular benefits of collagen?
Yes, the labrum, we have a labrum in our hip and we have a labrum in our shoulder. And it's kind of like what you were talking about, this ball and socket. And the labrum is like a suction. It kind of keeps it there. And it provides this padding between the femur and the hip joint and the humerus, the shoulder bone, and the actual glenohumeral socket, right? So over time, for a lot of these people, that will fray, that will degrade, and then you'll hear from a doctor. A lot of times, you get an X-ray, and you'll get this bone-on-bone thing, right, where the cartilage is degrading to a point where it starts to get closer to the bone of the shoulder joint or the hip joint, getting pounded into each other, and it can cause arthritis over time, right, and it can lead to a lot of pain and a lot of lack of function. So, but that cartilage is made up. The labrum itself is made up of collagen, right? So really, what we have to remember is like the building blocks that make that labrum what it is. It comes from collagen. So, one of the reasons why I think so many people have labral issues or tendonitis or rotator cuff tears or things like that is because of a deficiency in collagen, not having enough in our natural diet. Because in our modern diets, first of all, we get very little protein, very little of the amino acids and the building blocks we need to make up the function of our body, but we're really lacking collagen. And it's something our ancestors would get plenty of because they would eat nose to tail. It would also move around a lot during the day. But in our modern environment, with the way we eat, most of the foods are refined and processed. We're lacking collagen. And it's important to know that as we age, we produce collagen naturally, but after the age of 20, 25, that natural production radically begins to decline. And it takes a really big dip around our 50s, especially for women, once we start hitting menopause and start producing less estrogen. So supplementing with collagen, the building blocks of cartilage are collagen. It's one of the easiest things we can do to help rebuild and regrow that labrum.
Oh,
So it's a very,
wow.
very effective way of doing that. Yeah.
Isn't that extraordinary? The way I look at language, right? I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a PhD in poetry. And when you said regrow that labrum, like literally, if you look at Cleveland Clinic, pardon me, Johns Hopkins Medical Center, like all of these allopathic, Mount Sinai, really well-known, famous orthopedic surgery sites, and arthritis treatment sites and so on, at sites that specifically come up when you look at labral tear, labral fraying, they say you cannot regrow the labrum, and you are saying that's not true. And I've seen actually on more alternative sites that you can heal the labrum. Can you speak to that? It's almost like, I feel like sometimes medical science or traditional allopathic medicine creates language to enforce its reality, its most profitable reality. You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path Collagen. So Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it's pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 five-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice, and they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your experience of transformation today.
Yeah, I mean, I think this all comes down to perspective, right? And what we're told and what people are looking at. So a lot of people in the allopathic realm, this stuff is not even on their radar, right? It's not something they're taught in medical schools. They're taught about things very linear, right? Here's the MRI, here's the tear. I go in there, I zip it up, I put it back to normal, go do your physical therapy, everything's fine. This stuff with nutrition is not even on their radar. They get maybe a day of education on nutrition, and the education they get is very much it's still based on like the old food pyramid in the 80s, right? It's
No.
grains at the bottom, it's counting calories, it's not really focusing on quality nutrition, minimizing toxicity. It's a different framework altogether, right? So, there are all kinds of studies out there now that show that when it comes to cartilage, when it comes to skin and bone health, there's profound studies that show that if you take collagen consistently, that's the thing, is this is not something you take once and everything's good, everything's fine. We have to remember what we're trying to do is replenish our collagen storage, right? So it takes time, it takes consistency. I like to think of collagen as like a staple. It's something that you make part of your life. Look at it like a daily vitamin, and that's when you really see the great results. But yeah, all kinds of people will see improvements in their cartilage, their bone health, skin health, all kinds of things when it's done consistently.
Consistently. Well, that's the key. I mean, I'm a very bad planner and I just need to, I'm very good when I'm home, right? Like every day. And when I travel, I sometimes forget, right? Because I just pack in a hurry. And so I will, redouble my efforts because not only in terms of my mobility did I experience it, because I was on a cruise, a working cruise, not to sound like a slacker, and then in Iceland for a week. And I literally, was struggling. And not only was I struggling, not to go from the kind of profound to the trivial, but you can see on social media my skin was drying out. Like I looked, like aging, like literally both the maybe the dryness or harshness of the environment, but also just not having that with me. I have started again. We're home. My husband's making me that shake with your collagen every day. And I literally within 3 days kind of got my got my complexion back, got my skin quality back. And since, as I always say at this point, to be transparent, I'm going to be 63, this year. Don't want to do anything, never done anything, surgical or injectable or whatever. It really is satisfying to know that I can bounce back with your collagen. That said, I will not get on a plane again without bringing it. So now let's get into, now that we've gone from like profound, will I ever walk again, to I'm so glad I look cute again, right? Let's get into collagen for hair, skin, and nails. So we've talked a little bit about this, but there's always more to say. There are different collagen types. And so in your view, or from your knowledge base, from your product base, what's the best type for skin health?
Yeah, there's actually 28 different types, a lot of different collagen out there, and there's a lot of marketing that will tell you you need all these different types, right? It's important to remember that the body, of all the collagen in our body, 90% of it is made up of type 1 and type 3, right? So if you're going to supplement with collagen, type 4, type 5, 6, 7, all those other things, to me, it's almost like watered down collagen because it's not giving you
Mm,
the least things that make the most difference in your body. And type 1 particularly is what is responsible for your hair, your skin, and your nails. Like I like to think of type 1 as your youthful collagen, your beauty collagen. And type 3 is going to be found in your skin and your muscles. It's good for your gut lining and
mhm,
also your blood vessels. So type 1 and type 3 is really what you're looking for when it comes to your hair and your skin and your nails.
And how do you, and again, people can look online at pictures I posted from Iceland when I didn't have my collagen with me, and my hair was literally dry and brittle and breaking, so quickly, like 10 days being on the road. And now 3 days back, it's, well, I don't know if you can tell, but it's healthy and manageable. And I'm sorry that, like, I always get embarrassed when I get into this because it's like so mortifying, because I should be a serious intellectual, but at the same time, we do need to take care of our skin and hair. And I do like experience the change immediately. Have you, to take it away from me and you and our weirdly youthful qualities when we take our collagen. Have you seen this in other people? Like I see it in Brian, like he just
Oh
turned
yeah.
51, and when we're traveling and on the road and drinking alcohol and lying in the sun, we both start to look 10 years older. I mean, God bless him, he's the handsomest man I've ever seen. But then when we come back home and we're back on the native path, we're back on the path, I see him kind of bounce right back and look, younger than his age again, and move like he has injuries from his years as a veteran. He too moves much better. But let's just keep to the superficial. Do you have patients or clients who write to you or send you kind of before and after pictures with this strangely youthful effect of the collagen?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, we had the benefit of huge case studies with anecdotal evidence. We have over 1 million customers who are now taking native path products, and most of that, these people are taking collagen.
Mhm.
And they're writing in all the time to our customer experience team about their experience and what they're noticing. And a lot
Yeah.
of these people, they start taking collagen because they're wanting to improve things like their cartilage or their bone health. Those changes tend to come like a little longer, right? 6 weeks, 12 weeks. Some of the earliest things that people notice are their hair. Are
Mm,
and they'll say things like, I went to my barber and she's cutting my hair and she's like, what is going on? Your hair is thicker, it's fuller, it's not
yeah.
splitting at the ends. Like, what are you doing? So we see a lot of that. And a lot of people with the nails, for instance, people
Mm.
notice that's probably the first thing they notice within the first 2 weeks, I'd say,
Oh,
is their
wow.
nails are stronger and it's not as brittle, it doesn't break as easily. And I'm a guitar player and I'm always, I play a nylon, so I'm always strumming with my nails. And to me, I can tell when I don't take the collagen, it's the nails aren't as strong and there's the sound isn't as pure, isn't as good. So yeah, we see a lot of evidence of that for sure with the hair, the skin, the nails, the feedback of over 1 million people who are taking this, and it's
Mm.
consistent. I mean, people notice it quite a bit.
I'm not trying to tell you how to market your product, but it would be fascinating. But I am kind of asking for kind of a missing piece of data because it's so easy for, and in this case, you're not just competing with allopathic medicine, you're competing with a gigantic beauty industry, which I wrote my first book about, The Beauty Myth. Um, and they just lie. They lie to women, in particular women who are afraid of aging, about skincare. Particularly, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they say things like, this will roll back the clock, this will repair your epidermis, things that topical products simply cannot do, right? And then women spend all this money, and not only are they putting useless for anti-aging products on their faces, but they're also putting toxins in their systems. We've talked about this, the incredible, estrogen disruptors, parabens, phthalates that are in skincare products, especially beauty care products and hair products. So it would be amazing, because there are no studies that I know of kind of showing before and after for people taking collagen in terms of skin and hair health. But it would be really cool for you to ask, like, a nice healthy sample of your patients or customers, to take before and after pictures and send them in, or even, I don't know, some kind of study that where they self-assess. I don't know. I'm just like, it's not your job. It's not
No, yeah.
your science, but it would be satisfying, because we find these remedies, and we're such voices pushed to the margins, right, by mainstream culture. And it would be very, very satisfying to see people, to see kind of the science of beauty essentially
Yeah,
through
yeah.
collagen.
And we do that. We're always collecting testimonials, and we try to get as many before and after pictures as we can. We're
Oh,
actually, yeah, we're starting a new thing where when someone purchases a Native Path product, we're going down this thing called Story Path, and it's a series of videos where once they get the collagen delivered to their door, they're going to get a video link of me and getting them excited about collagen, showing them all the great ways to take it, and then encouraging them to take a before picture, because we're going to come back again in 30 days and take an after picture. And we're already starting to collect these before and afters, and
oh,
they're so great. And
I love
I
it.
think what you're tapping into is like people want to see stories, right? People want to see themselves, and they want to see someone just like them who's had the same situation as them, and who's gone before them, and it gives them hope, and it gives them the inspiration they need to take action and keep going,
I
And
love it.
what you're talking about, like the beauty stuff, like when the conventional model, like I view it as like an old way, right? All these chemicals that we've been putting on our skin is what's the biggest absorption in our body, right? And there's so many heavy metals, endocrine disruptors, the chemicals that can cause skin reactions, but who knows like what else and what kind of cancers are happening out there. And it's looking at beauty from the outside in, and we really encourage people to think of it from the inside out. Like put good stuff inside of your body, and the outside will start to look and appear a lot better.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Hence the challenge, right? January's challenge. If you
Yes.
take the 30 days, you see such a difference. Well, I love it that you're doing that. And as you acquire those, if people give their okay, we'd love to run some of them sometime on our
Yeah,
own,
for sure.
on our own
For
platform.
sure.
Because there's nothing like, as you say, there's nothing like seeing for yourself. Well, let's talk about what collagen type supports hair and nails. It's different, right? For hair growth versus nails. Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf, and I have a message. Um, President Trump is in the process of what he calls draining the swamp. But many in the MAGA movement and the MAHA movement are asking if he'll expose the entire pandemic. There's enough public evidence for people to be concerned who injected themselves in what has turned out to be a massive experiment. If you were compelled to get the shot for work, travel, maybe you just trusted the system, check out this natural solution formulated by hero doctor Peter McCullough in collaboration with the wellness company. They just leveled up their original detox formula and it costs $30 less. We are introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox. It's now conveniently consolidated into a single capsule with 4 times more nattokinase, 500 milligrams of bromelain, and 500 milligrams of turmeric root extract. Nattokinase, an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects, may work to break down spike proteins. Combined with bromelain and curcumin, it provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support. Crafted with 100% natural ingredients, Ultimate Spike Detox is backed by research. It offers effective support for your cell's natural repair and recovery. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. Peter McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all to bring you the truth. Head over to dailyclouthealth.com and use the code DailyClout to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's dailyclouthealth.com and use the code DailyClout to get 10% off and get back to that pre-COVID feeling.
Well, those are both type 1. Type 1 is going to be the hair and the nails and the skin. So think of type 1 as your beauty collagen, and type 3 to me is more of the functional collagen, right? That's going to be for the muscles, also for the skin, the gut lining, and the blood vessels. But really it's type 1 that's the key, right? And remember, there's all kinds of multi-collagen things out there, but 90% of the collagen in your body is type 1 and type 3. So for getting the most money out of your investment, that's going to be the best thing you can do. And I view it as one of the least things you can do that makes the most difference in all of your body. And it doesn't just benefit those areas, it benefits your heart, it benefits your brain. The gut to me is a big one, because once you improve the intestinal lining, the ability for your body to break down food, absorb food and nutrients, and eliminate toxins, it's a game changer in terms of you getting the most out of what you eat. So it's a very much a kind of like a flywheel. You know, it's churning your health in a beautiful way.
Could you talk a little bit more about that? I know so many people have gut issues, probably from our horrible food supply and pesticides. Probably vaccines don't help either because they're so inflammatory. But how does your collagen help the gut lining?
Well, you're right. Most people do have issues with their gut because they've been eating a lot of gut irritating foods. You know, the refined processed foods with gluten and sugar and red dyes and things like that. Even common foods like just grains with gluten in them, conventional milk, even beans can be a lot of problem for
Really?
people. Yeah,
What's
there's
wrong with
protect.
conventional milk? Sorry to interrupt. What's wrong with
Well,
conventional milk?
a lot of the proteins in milk can be very irritating to the gut, and
Oh,
just like gluten, they can irritate the gut lining and essentially poke holes in the intestinal lining. So you can think of your intestinal lining kind of like a hose, right? You turn on the hose, you want water to come in one end, go out the other. But if you poke holes, there's all kinds of things and water leaking out where it doesn't need to be leaking out. So when that happens, when we eat foods that are irritating to our gut, we can allow foreign proteins to then get into our bloodstream. Things that aren't supposed to be in our bloodstream can get into our bloodstream, and this can wreak havoc on our overall health. It can send off it can put people in autoimmune type issues that, you know, conventional medicine is like, we don't know what's going on, what's happening. It can cause depression and mood issues, can cause inflammation all over the body. But mostly it affects our ability to absorb the nutrients that we eat, and it makes us more toxic inside. So gut health to me is like Hippocrates says, it starts in the gut. Your gut health is so important. So what we recommend in Native Path is first and foremost, shift back to whole real foods, right?
Mhm.
Good proteins, vegetables, fruits, good fats, and things like that. But
Mhm.
then start supplementing with things that can help heal and seal that gut lining if there's a damage to that. So when you supplement with collagen, again, it's going to go to all the areas of your body that is damaged. It doesn't just go to random places. Like they've actually done studies with mice,
Wow.
injected them with collagen, looked at radioactive dye. It goes specifically to the areas that are damaged. So if you have damage to your gut lining, you can expect collagen to go to that area, heal it, seal it, and you can see improvements in the way you break down food, absorb it, and also eliminate toxins. And that affects your overall health in a big way.
Amazing. And you mentioned brain, and of course, I'm worried about that too these days for many reasons. I mean, dementias, Alzheimer's are on the rise, neurological issues are on the rise, but also, as I'm sure we've discussed, these horrible injections cross the blood-brain barrier. So I know a lot of people who've been vaccinated want to know how to protect their brain. And I just want to know how to protect my brain as someone who's, older.
So you have the brain and the nervous system itself. You have this long spinal cord, and from that you have these nerves coming out your arms, and it's all protected by this myelin sheath. And that myelin sheath is largely made up of collagen, right? So you're giving yourself the building blocks it needs for your brain to start sending energy and messages. And I view it like electricity, right? We're sending energy and electricity throughout our body in order for it to function and contract muscles and relax muscles and do all the things it needs to do. So collagen is essential to the nervous system.
I cannot believe that I've been dealing with a neurological condition, well, my whole life, but had it diagnosed in 2009. And literally, that's the first time I've heard that explained. Like
Yeah,
literally
it's
none of my neurologists, at the best neurology department in New York, NYU Langone, said to me, "Oh, you've got you have to keep your nerves healthy. Be sure to eat lots of collagen because the myelin sheath, which I did know about, right, is made of collagen." No one told me that. That I'm smiling, but that's kind of infuriating. What do you make
yeah.
of that? Like, how can that be that neurologists don't tell people suffering with neurological conditions to boost their collagen intake to protect the myelin sheath?
I think this all comes back to perspective. Unless a neurologist is curious and looking into other avenues and more natural ways of health, it's not even going to be on their radar, right? They're just doing what they've been trained to do, and that's okay. That's okay. That's why we got other people
Well,
talking
but
about
how is it
nutrition and
okay?
collagen.
I'm sorry. You're much nicer than I am.
Yeah, yeah, I'm nicer. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah,
How is it okay if they're trying to fix nerves, which are very delicate, magical things to start out with, right? And if it's like it's not woo-woo what you're saying, it's actual science, right? It's actual Western
yeah.
science. This is made of that, right? So why would they not incorporate, I mean, why would they not? Never mind. I'm asking you an unanswerable question, but isn't it upsetting? Like, this is not like, oh, and if you really want to, go in the woods barefoot and worship the moon, you can do that. It may help, right? This is actual, this will help you build what you need for your nerves to conduct correctly. Am I
Yeah.
making
Well,
sense here?
it is I guess for me it is upsetting, and that's why I started Native Path. And
Right.
I think I told you like my first time on here, my first internship was at a heart hospital, and on the first floor of that heart hospital was a McDonald's, right? And there's no one listening that would be like, oh, I want to do something good for my heart today. I'm gonna go have a McDonald's with a Coke and a Big Mac and fries, right? So what are we saying from a health industry standpoint when we put a McDonald's in a heart hospital?
Right.
We're saying we do not value food, and we do not look at food as a way to heal. We do not even acknowledge food as the part of the problem of why we got a heart issue in the first place, right?
Right.
So that's the thinking, the perspective that I was seeing in conventional healthcare. I would go into in people's homes, do it as a home health physical therapist, people that weren't well enough or strong enough to go to an outside clinic. I would see what they were eating in their pantry, in their fridge. I would watch them watch TV and watch them see the commercials telling them to eat foods that were terrible for their health, for their neurological system, for their heart. And I would see them watch the same TV, and the next commercial would tell them to take a pill to treat the symptoms they were having. And then I would watch a nurse come in who was often obese themselves and inject the patients with insulin, right? And everybody's doing what they think they should do because that nurse went to nursing school and she got a certification. She went to a specific program. She works for a doctor who also has a specific thing they're trying to follow. All those heart surgery doctors at the hospital, they are doing what they were told to do. They were never told about nutrition. And it takes people who are curious. It takes people who are asking, like, what's going on? And what really caught my attention is when I looked at the changes that have happened in the past 100 years. And in these past 100 years, we've had a radical rise in chronic disease, a radical rise in heart disease, obesity, diabetes, autism continues to go up, and we're having a lot of enthusiasm about what can we give this person to treat them, right? The
Yeah.
pharmaceutical industry is super big on let's really raise a lot of money to come up with the medicine we can do to cure this thing, to
Mm,
fix it, right?
mm,
I am much more interested in the cause, right?
mhm.
What is actually happening in our modern environment that is causing our health issues? The ways that we're moving, the ways that we're eating, the ways that we're living that are causing our health issues. How can we look to our ancestors, even just 100 years ago,
Mhm.
find some answers, right?
Mhm.
What were they doing that we're not now? And let's start testing and doing things. So I spent my whole career researching this stuff and then testing it on myself and sharing it with others. And that's where we're at. I still get frustrated with what I see in conventional medicine, but we're also in a very transparent society where you and I are able to have these conversations.
Yeah.
People are able to listen. It's a free market. People are able to go out and purchase whatever they want. And there's going to be a transition. There's
Right.
going to be a huge transition. And I believe we as a human species have to make this transition where we move back to obeying these laws of nature.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we'll stop reproducing. Like there are laws of nature that nature will come in and be like, if you don't get aligned here, we're gonna keep punching you in the face until you figure it out.
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
So
I see what you mean, and I guess my kind of retroactive rage comes from the vantage point of having been a patient, in allopathic care for many years, before I knew where to look elsewhere, right? Which
yeah.
partly crises of the last few years ejected us from our our institutional trust generally. We had to look elsewhere, thank God. But I can see that if you're part of the solution, as you are at Native Path, and you're in a position, to manufacture the solution and to have the satisfaction of seeing it work, actually not just one product, but multiple products, um, you could have a more peaceful approach to the dumbness
Yeah.
of allopathic practitioners. So I credit that. Well, along those lines, what are you developing now? I mean, it's so interesting that all of your research led to, several really important products. But are there more on the horizon? What are you curious about now? What are you looking into?
I mean, we're always coming out with new products. We have an amazing food scientist on our team who's been indoctrinated in our philosophy, and we've set him out to go create more things to essentially fill in the gaps. Right. What we're doing here at Native Path is we're looking at what the vitamins, the minerals, the proteins, the things that are missing in our modern diet, and how can we, number one, educate people on what they need from a whole food standpoint, but the things that are missing, how can we create the best, most effective supplements that really are filling in the gaps and give them what they need. So we have over 40 products now, I believe,
Wow.
and they're all designed to do that. And some of the best ones that we're coming out with lately that are really we're seeing great results with is creatine. We have a creatine product, and it's the first creatine product marketed towards women, which is fascinating. There's studies that came out um, that women actually need creatine more than men. And we historically think creatine is something that it's for gym bros, right?
Right.
It's I'm going to lift, I'm going to get bigger and stronger. But muscle health and muscle strength is incredibly important to the function of the human body.
Mm.
And they also have studies showing that creatine is beneficial for brain function and
Wow.
specifically mood for women. So we're really excited about that because most of our audience is actually women. It's women over the age of 50.
Really?
And we have the first creatine product that is being marketed and really thought of for women. So we're really excited about that.
That is
And we also
exciting.
have an organ complex with organs are the most nutrient dense areas of an animal that we can eat: the liver, the heart, the kidneys, and things like that.
Mm.
So we came out with that, and we're really excited about that because that's essentially like a very effective multivitamin in my opinion. So
What kind of
lots of great
animal
things.
are you taking the organs from?
The cow. Yeah. The
Right.
cow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sourced, no doubt, impeccably.
Hmm. And we have a vitamin C, a liposomal vitamin C product. We all know that vitamin C is important for the immune system. You can get it from food. But the problem with a lot of traditional, conventional vitamin C products is it's coming from corn. It's coming from ascorbic
Right.
acid and
Oh
things
my
like
God.
that. We do not support the corn industry, the conventional food industry. So we have our vitamin C coming from the amala fruit, and it's a great, highly bioavailable, efficacious vitamin C product. Tastes wonderful. It also uses egg whites as the binder there. So it's made from the purest ingredients. So really excited about that. So
Wow.
lots of great things. Another one of my favorites is Complete Protein. This is our protein powder. So we're real big, as you can tell, on protein and muscle strength and muscle health.
Mhm.
So our protein comes from hydro beef protein. And a lot of the proteins out there is coming from dairy proteins, which can be irritating to the gut for a lot of people, or they're coming from plant proteins, which aren't complete proteins. And also people have a lot of issues sometimes digesting those. So ours tastes wonderful. It's extremely effective for improving muscle strength and maintaining function as you age. So lots
Yeah.
of great products that are all kind of doing what our philosophy is filling in the gaps.
So you're explaining more about what I feel is your mission. It sounds like, tell me if this is not right, but from the range of products that you're describing and also the new products, it sounds as if your mission is to help us in the modern world with our depleted food supply and our toxic environment, have what we're missing in order to live the way our bodies were intended to live 2 or 3 thousand years ago.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We view ourselves as guides, right? We're guiding people on the path to eating, moving, and living in harmony with our biology and in alignment with nature. So as we get people on the path, we're trying to get them off the path of a lot of the stuff that we grew up with, right? The
Right.
the seed oils, the sugars, the stagnation, the artificial lights, the highly refined carbohydrates, the sugars, and things like that.
Mhm.
And with that, lots of pills and lots of diagnosis that we get caught up in, and this is my
Mhm.
lot in life and there's nothing I can do about it. We think there's a lot more going on with our environment, right? Our
Yeah.
environment, the way we're eating, moving, and living is the cause. We can also change that. That can be the
Mhm.
solution. Nutrition can be the solution to a lot of our issues, and what we're doing is filling in the gaps of what's missing to help you and everyone else become a whole, more complete, healthy human being.
Well, I think it's highly ethical that you're not presenting supplements as if as if you can like stay on the couch watching Netflix, popping your supplement in between Cheetos, and all will be well, right? It sounds like it's a holistic approach that includes all of us, right? Doing our part to give our bodies what they need to optimize our health, not just.
Yeah, education is one of the things that makes us different, right?
Mm.
So we're if we're gonna talk to you about collagen, we're not just gonna talk to you about collagen,
Right.
and we're gonna talk to you about all the other things that are gonna help you from a nutritional standpoint do what collagen does, right? And we want to make you aware of all the foods that could be harming your collagen levels, right? The sugars, the seed oils, all of that, and then
Mhm.
really empower you with education and take something like collagen so you get the best results, right? Because
Right.
both of them are really important. And it's more of a customer experience that we're trying to create for people, right? Where they're educated and they have the information.
So thank you. So back to kind of the granular understanding of collagen. Is it, from what you're describing, it sounds as if people may find that they're taking collagen for one condition, right? Like, I have some arthritis in my elbow, or I have, my shoulders ache. And then they find that it heals other conditions. Do you hear about that? Because it sounds like collagen is the, you know, undergirding many, many, many things that people struggle with and just attribute to aging, like brain fog or,
For
short
sure.
attention span. Does that resonate with you? And if so, can you give me some examples?
Yeah, we've been talking about like how it's good for the skin, people notice changes in their nails and their hair, and that's all the outside stuff. But the same changes are going on inside, and from the most dense areas inside your body to the more superficial. So bone mineral density is a big one, right?
Huh.
Your bone health, right? You're not just improving the skin and the nails and the outside. That's the most dense part of your body. Your actual bones is made up of collagen. So we see people who get improvements on their DEXA scan when they're taking
Wow.
collagen for 4, 6, 8 months, a year. They'll see improvements on that. They'll have reduction in joint pain, because the tendons, the ligaments, the cartilage in between those joints that make up the health of the joint all start to get better. Their mobility gets better, digestion gets better, muscle strength gets better, energy, mood, all of those things are common things that people say when they start taking collagen consistently. And it's because all those areas are made up of collagen, right?
Right. So is it kind of a good bet that people who ate nose to tail and who got collagen naturally in their food supply, say 200 years ago, didn't suffer from the kind, I mean, maybe some did, but widespread depression, anxiety, and attention problems that we did? Is that possible?
I think for sure. I think for sure. What's interesting is I have actually gone and lived with indigenous people, like in the jungle,
Mhm.
and they eat off the land. They live in a community. They eat whole, real food. They didn't even have a word for depression. It wasn't something that they dealt with, right? In community environments and food environments have a huge impact on our mood. That sense of purpose and belonging, connection to the food,
Mhm.
connection to people. Like in our modern world, we're getting further and further away from human connection. We're getting further and further away from whole, real food. All
Mhm.
of these things impact our mood and our health and our emotional well-being. So I think it's all connected for sure.
That is so fascinating. I mean, I'm kind of mentally adding a list of people and, people suffering from various things that I'm gonna be applying with collagen in order to boost their mood, attention, mobility, as well as, the more quote unquote superficial things. We've talked about how long it takes, and I hear that consistency is key, that it's typically 4 to 12 weeks of daily supplementation to show visible improvements. And would you explain what collagen loading is before we go on to the last couple of questions?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, most people are extremely deficient in collagen because as we age, our natural production declines, but also in our diet, we're not getting enough. So we see the best results in a collagen loading process. And what I mean there is you got to catch up. We got to replenish those collagen
Mm.
storage. So
Wow.
when people start, we tend to encourage people to be more aggressive, especially during the first 2 to 4 weeks. So
Mm.
instead of taking just one scoop a day, for instance, that's a good time to take maybe 2 scoops, maybe three, maybe even 4 scoops a day where you're getting
Whoa.
40 grams of collagen.
Right.
The more, yeah, no, the more serious issues you're dealing with, the more we encourage you to take, but probably no more than 40. 40 is all you need. But doing that for a period of 2 to maybe 4 weeks. Sometimes people even go along taking 40 grams for 8 weeks. Not
Wow.
forever, but
Mhm.
get to the point where you're seeing improvements. Get to the point where you're functioning again. You're at a good place where you're happy, then you can bump it back down to 2 scoops or maybe 1 scoop a day where you're taking 10, 20 ounces. But it's really important to load up and really replenish the collagen storage that's been lost, or if for some people, it's not even there for so long.
Wow. Well, I'm really glad we had this conversation because I've been back to a scoop a day, but I'm deficient clearly. So I'm going to bump it up to 4 scoops a day for, you said 8 weeks, and then go back to one a day.
Yeah, 4 to 8 weeks. Everyone's going to be a little different depending on where
Mhm.
they're at. But like, once your symptoms have decreased, once you're noticing visible signs, you can back it back down.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to do my own personal 8 week, 4 to 8 week challenge for mobility, and I'll report back to you. I know that in January I did it just for my looks and for getting over New Year's excess. So, what are the best sources of collagen from the natural world, like from what we eat?
So when the best source again going to be type 1, type 3 coming from cows, bovine hides,
Oh,
mammals, like
I'm sorry to jump in. I meant like when you're just shopping for groceries or planning your diet.
so that would be things like the skin on chickens,
Oh, really?
eggs, the egg whites, even I know it sounds weird, but eggshells can be a good source of collagen.
No kidding.
Fish can have fit. It's the skin part that you're looking for. So the
Oh,
skin on chicken, the skin on fish, having just a little bit of that are some of the best ways to do it. Making broths, if you can do that as well, that's like to buy actual broth, use it in soups and all the other things that broths can be used in recipes. Those are some of the best sources for you.
do, do you find it at all questionable that we've been told to remove the skin of the chicken? Like we've been told, to
Yeah.
not eat a lot of these things that are so good for us. Well, how do you feel about Jello or gelatin?
Gelatin's great. Yeah, gelatin is great, but the thing about so what gelatin is collagen, but it's not hydrolyzed and broken down as much. It's a bigger particle,
Mhm.
right? So it's not going to be appropriate for the daily staples, right? It's not going to be appropriate for your everyday tea or your everyday smoothie or coffee or things like
Mm,
that.
mhm,
So in terms of making a huge change in your body, I really feel like it's the consistency and making collagen a staple that's going to give you the best results. But gelatin is a good thing to bake with. You know, if you're going
mhm.
to use, there's all kinds of fun recipes that you can use where it's a much better option than, let's say, if you're going to go buy Jello or go buy um, a cake or something like that. There's all
Mhm.
kinds of recipes out there with gelatin. So to me, it's more of a baking, fun cooking addition to your
I
kitchen.
see. And in fact, I see that hydrolyzed collagen or collagen peptides are broken down into smaller pieces, making it easier to absorb than gelatin. Is that what you were just explaining, basically? That
Exactly. Yeah. It makes it easier to absorb, but it's also more practical and more useful from a day-to-day basis.
interesting. I We were given by our host in Iceland a packet of dried codfish, including the skin, which is apparently something that Icelandic people who are beautiful, by the way, and look incredibly healthy, and they're all like supermodels. I was surrounded by an audience of Icelandic people. They
Yeah.
men, women, it was like the Norse gods, and I felt like this tiny midget for like but they have been living on dried fish for millennia, and also, as our host pointed out, they skipped the industrial revolution, so they have an incredibly pure environment. They have pure water, fresh air. But I was also very struck by this packet of dried fish. Initially my husband and I were like, oh, thank you very much, Gunnar, like, thank you for this hostess gift of dried fish. Like, we're not used to it. But then Gunnar, our wonderful host, said, have it with melted butter. And we dipped the dried codfish in melted butter. You're supposed to eat this while you're hiking up those glaciers. And it was the most sublime thing, but also immediately we both felt a lift in mood and energy. Um, I'm not sure where I'm going with that, except that I suspect that dried codfish has the bones, it has the skin, it has, all those collagen peptides. But I guess I'm just validating that, this very kind of pure protein full of things we usually process out made us immediately feel better.
Yeah, you're getting a good example of what happens to a population when they're eating whole real food and their native diet, the things that their ancestors were eating. And this really got me onto all of this stuff from Weston Price. You know, he was a
Mm,
dentist in the early part of the 20th century. He studied indigenous cultures all around the world who were
yeah,
eating their native diet, who were eating things like cod and uh, organs and broths and things like that that were
mhm,
free of a lot of the industrialized commercialized food, and he
mhm,
observed in them amazing health, like very little chronic disease, no problems with fertility, people
right.
living long in their age of health and doing all the things they wanted to do, but people living down the road with the same genetic profile who were eating the modern foods, who were having all these chronic issues, right?
Mm,
And the foundation of it being on protein and good fats, and that's what you're eating there when you went on your trip. You're getting good protein and getting good fat, and you're moving
yeah,
away from a lot of the refined carbohydrates, which is
yeah.
where a lot of people get in trouble. So that gives you the building blocks of what you need, but the good fats also gives you that long sustained energy that's very uplifting for your mood, and you don't have these crashes that most people have that keeps them going back to sugar for energy.
Yeah, well, you've explained it very well. Well, I guess I'm just going to ask my last question, then I'll let you go because, of course, we've run out of time, which always happens because it's so, so fascinating, your journey and what you bring people through Native Path. So many people are struggling with blood issues and clots, and I want to know, maybe it's totally unrelated. Of course, I'm worried because many of my loved ones have taken this injection. Many young women, of course, are also struggling with reproductive problems, menstrual problems. Is there any way in which collagen helps with circulation and just reproductive stability, or is it completely unrelated?
So where it helps with circulation is the arterial walls, the arteries and the veins that are sending blood and bringing blood back. All of that, the structure of it, collagen is going to help with that.
Mm.
If people are really having blood issues, like worried about blood clotting, the better thing to take would be krill oil. That's a very natural anticoagulant. Fish oil is good, but we really consider krill to be superior to fish oil. A lot of the fish oil out there is coming from the ocean waters that are polluted with mercury and all kinds of things. And we don't really look at that as a very safe source of omega-3s anymore. But the krill from the Antarctic Ocean, the most pristine waters out there, it's going to be some of your most effective forms of omega-3, and it's a very good natural blood thinner. So I would start there. We see a lot of people who have circulation issues with swelling in their feet, in their hands, and things like that. Dramatically reduces when they start taking krill oil.
Oh, wow, thank God. All right. Well, you've answered my question. And in terms of kind of fertility and menstrual regularity, is it related, unrelated? We don't know.
I can't speak onto that too much. But when it comes to fertility, this goes back to obeying a lot of the laws of nature, right? And moving towards whole real food and getting good fats, egg yolks, things like that. Those are very important.
Yeah. Well, you've answered all of my immediate questions. And as always, you leave me feeling much more cheerful and hopeful that we can not just, take charge of our health, but really live in harmony in larger ways. Health is just a metaphor. So thank you, Dr. Chad. Can't wait
Thank
to
you,
talk to you
Naomi.
next, and tell people where they can find your wonderful products. We'll, of course, show you in our ad, but tell people where they should go to find out more.
You can find us at nativepath.com. You can see all our amazing different products. We're also going to provide a link here where you can learn more about collagen and get a special discount for people who are watching this today. So that's going to be the best place to check it out. And I recommend buying some, getting some, and being consistent with it. Remember, we talked about replenishing the collagen storage, but make it a daily staple. Take at least 2 scoops a day. Start noticing the changes. Take a before and after picture for 30 days, and then send it to us and let us know how you're doing.
Awesome. I can't wait to follow up. Well, thank you, Dr. Chad. Have a wonderful day. And thank you, everyone. Take care.